Alright, this is block 4 over there, section 3, the home front, and the section on black migration to northern cities. For reasons that we talked about earlier in the year, most blacks stayed in the South after the Civil War, despite the blatant racial discrimination and violence of the Ku Klux Klan and lacking the right to vote. That factors such as family and kinship and ties and illiteracy had kept them in the South. Between 1890 and 1910, about 200,000 African Americans migrated to northern cities, but as soon as World War I broke out and the need for more industrial production really kicked into gear, this movement north became a flood. During the war years, over 500,000 black Americans moved from the South to the North. That's well over 100,000 a year during the war years. There was less racism, although there was still plenty of that. Blacks could vote in the North. Blacks could, kind of find whatever jobs they could find. They lived in black neighborhoods. They were not particularly welcome elsewhere. But, within reasonable social limits, blacks living in the North could say and do what they pleased without fear of humiliation or physical attack. Blacks sent their children to schools that were not formally segregated. It was a much better life, spiritually and economically. Because as we saw during the First World War, wages went up, working hours and working conditions were better, and this caused this massive pull of northern cities down into the South. That many northern factory owners sent people down south to recruit blacks living, in the segregated South, and pulled them literally out of the cotton fields and up into the factories of the North. This, what we have up on the board, is a very famous piece of art showing this African-American migration into the cities of Chicago and New York and St. Louis. And just to give you some numbers, just during the war years, the black population of New York increased by 60,000, the black population of Chicago more than doubled, and the black population of Detroit increased by more than 700%. Blacks also joined the American military, fighting in segregated units as they had since the Civil War, mostly as service troops, cooks and drivers and things like that. But there were frontline American colored troops, including some that were decorated quite intensely for bravery. This had an impact on the United States that lasted much beyond the First World War, obviously, as the story of black America in the 20th century is no longer the story of blacks down south. For the most part, the story of black America in the 20th century is now going to have two components. It's going to have blacks down south living in this regime of segregation, but it's also going to have a massive urban presence in the North, which obviously is still there to this very day. And that began during World War I due to economic need for factory workers in the North.